Welcome to one of many developer insight articles for Codename Frontiers. Over the weeks and months to come, we will be covering a lot of different topics about changes coming to Destiny 2 next year with these deeper dives. Check back with our Paving the Way for New Frontiers article for more information on our plans and an always up-to-date list of these articles as they are published. This deep dive is introducing Combatant modifiers and how they will fit into our large modifier system changes, providing new abilities or properties to the enemy combatants you encounter in an activity. These new threats will create new gameplay, raise the challenge, and overall change up the experience from run to run. Okay, this may arguably be the most important. This is a core change, at least on the surface here. But TLDR, we are investing more than ever before in our activity modifier systems. Activities will be updated with a library of modifiers that can change how you approach combat on every playthrough. And combatants will gain varied powers and buffs in order to create new gameplay threats and encourage changes in player strategy, especially for higher challenge levels. Interesting. Okay. The problem. Today in Destiny, playing the same PvE activity repeatedly can feel like a chore, particularly when chasing a reward or following a narrative. Running through the latest exotic mission the second, third, and fourth time just doesn't feel fun enough to justify the time spent. Eventually, you know when each enemy spawns, where to fight them, and how to win without any challenge. This is a component of Destiny 2 we want to greatly improve with Codename Frontiers, keeping activities fresh and challenging each time you run them. Okay, I like that, but there's got to be a reward for that, right? Like the loot has got to match the challenge. Now the solution: improve the experience of replaying activity content by adding variety and unpredictability to each playthrough. A first-class modifier system. Destiny 2 has added modifiers to activities since the launch of the first Nightfall. Who else remembers trying to wrangle Solar Shield Shanks in 2014 Archon Priest? With Codename Frontiers, we're investing more than ever in our modifier system to improve the fun and challenge in activities. We are creating combatant-focused modifiers that change the way players approach combat on every playthrough, Banes, enemy modifiers, and combat modifiers. Designing modifiers so that they can combine to create a wide variety of experiences and reduce barriers to entry and time to fun by reducing the number of build crafting necessary modifiers and replacing them with new combat modifiers. Okay, so reducing the barrier to entry. Gotcha. All right, so Banes. Also known as combatant affixed modifiers, an enemy unit with a Bane will present a different challenge to players according to which Bane is affecting them. Enemies that spawn with these modifiers appear unpredictably during an activity, so each run will present a different challenge. Here are two of the Banes we will be releasing in Episode 2 Revenant as we start to test out this new system ahead of Codename Frontiers: Meteors and Shock. The Meteor Bane gives combatants the ability to launch solar projectiles that track but can be shot down. Shock will continuously build up a charge that will discharge on a single target within line of sight, and killing a unit with this Bane causes it to spread to others nearby. All right, let's take a look at this. Hold on. Okay, so this is Meteor and Shock Bane. Oh, okay. And then there's the Shock one. Okay. All right. So you see it right there. There's the meteors. So another element to make enemy stuff. And then you do, that's the Shock Bane is for you. Now here are sneak previews of other in-development Banes we are working on. All are still in development and subject to change. Berserk. Killing combatants with Berserk causes other combatants nearby to enrage. So he kills his enemy. Okay, see how they're lit up? And I guess they get a lot more aggressive. Okay. Yeah, so then they just start charging you. And you see like the highlighted portion of them. Now, punchable. Punchable combatants are immune to all ranged damage and damage from status effects until they are hit with a melee attack. Okay, so immune. No damage. And you gotta punch him. Well, there you go. Glaive meta incoming. All right, nuclear. Once a unit with nuclear Bane reaches low health, it begins an arming sequence. If the unit is not defeated before the sequence completes, it explodes in a massive fiery shockwave. Okay, so there it is. Oh, wow. Oh, that is... Dude, that's actually that one's actually kind of cool. That's a hell of a blast. So you can imagine it's like, obviously, like this is it's not necessarily the most stressful environment right here, but like in a GM, if you have these things active, that would be an instant wipe for sure. Now, enemy modifiers. While Banes will appear intermittently on individual units, enemy modifiers are used to change base aspects of all enemies in an activity. Adjust your strategies to account for an active enemy modifier, or you may end up flat-footed when something unexpected happens. For example, under a certain enemy modifier, shipping and Revenant, some enemies may have copied some tricks about booby-trapping their drops from a famous Scorn Baron. So, you remember we made a video a while back, guys, about we need enemy AI 3.0 or Combatant 3.0. I think this is it, man. This is their pitch for Combatant 3.0 or enemy AI 3.0 is adding these levels of optional modifiers. I don't know if they're trying out all of these in Revenant or if it's just the Meteor and Shock that they're going to be trying out in Revenant. Okay, so here are the two Banes we'll be releasing in episode 2. Okay. So Meteors and Shock are the only two they're going to be trying out in Revenant. All right, this mixes things up, man. This is like the next, update to Combatants. Now, combat modifiers. Modifiers aren't just about changing enemies. They can affect players too. Surge mods are a classic modifier type that's been used for years in Destiny ritual activities. But we come to realize that too many forceful build crafting modifiers can become barriers for players. So we've been working to create new modifiers that are more accepting of various strategies and builds. More on those modifiers to come. Now, frequently asked questions. What about champions? Will they be using Banes too? Champions still exist in our new future for modifiers, but they won't be hosting any Banes. Interesting. You think it's because it would be too powerful? Imagine a champion with this modifier on right here, and you just can't gun them down in time to stop the explosion, which would obviously wipe. I mean, in a GM level content, this would wipe you in your squad. Yeah, I mean, they may do it in the future, but I'm okay with them just trying it out on regular enemy types. Now, can Bane stack on an enemy? In Revenant only, one Bane can be present on an enemy at a time, meaning eventually they may try doing multiple Banes. Imagine if somehow one enemy rolls with meteor nuclear punchable. Oh my god, imagine punchable and nuclear. You've got an enemy out there, you can't kill him at range, you gotta close the gap, get the melee kill, or he wipes your squad. My question about nuclear too, like can you survive it? Right here, I don't know what level content is. That's just one-time modifier right there. Can you survive it with your super in GM content? Can we survive it with Ursa Furiosa maybe? I don't know if you can protect your teammates with Ursa Furiosa with it, because it's like a wave. I feel like it's still going to hit them. All right. Are you replacing all the old modifiers with these new ones? No, we're trying to strike a balance of keeping the best of the old modifiers that work well with the new ones, but these new modifiers raise the bar enough that we will most likely start to retire the older ones over time. All right. So guys, this is the first look here at some of the things they're going to be doing to spice up enemy combatants. We made a video probably about what it was a year and a half ago where we talked about the enemy AI within Destiny is going to have to be updated. And so this is their way of going about that. Now, we'll see how the delivery of this is going to be. Again, I still maintain that in order to, like, who's going to voluntarily come in here and be like, yeah, I'll take all these different Banes, modifiers, make everything crazy, but I'm just going to get a palindrome at the end of it. Not that we wouldn't grind for a palindrome, but it's like, why would you take those modifiers for just something that we were already getting for just doing a base level Grandmaster? I would do it for fun. Yeah, I would do it for fun, but I'm just talking about from, like, there's got to be something at the end of that that's like, it's worth it. Would you do it for shinies? Would you do it for shiny drops? Would you load out a Grandmaster Nightfall, run it with modifiers for a shiny palindrome at the end of it? If drops are more rolls, then yes. Yeah, drop more rolls. Keep in mind, the tier drops are going to have other masterworks. Y'all remember seeing it from the last blog post? We're going to have the ability to enhance everything. Enhance the barrel perk, enhance the origin trait. But I mean, again, like, I think even beyond that, like, we need something at the very, very top end. It's like, hey, I'm going to apply 6 different Banes or however many Banes. Like, what is the high end of that? And then what's my reward? I think it's going to have to be equivalent to a shiny. It's got to be. Dare I say, maybe a shiny, perhaps even a new rarity. Something to keep in mind. I think that would spice it up. And then that would make people go, all right, I'm willing to go through this Nightfall. It'd be a 45-minute long Grandmaster Nightfall with all these different Banes and everything is a pain in the ass. But on the other side of it, glory. Something truly rewarding. All right. Now let's take a look at the next blog post, guys. Now let's talk about our plans for upcoming raid and dungeon content. TLDR, every year we'll kick off with a brand new raid as part of the first expansion. The following major update will then expand on this raid, adding new challenge, twists, and rewards. The second expansion each year will deliver a new dungeon with an expanded reward offering. The fourth and final major update of the year will launch an event that leverages legacy raid and dungeon content along the lines of the Pantheon. All right, so in-game aspirational content, raids, and dungeons. New raids. Raids are a cornerstone of Destiny. They bring fire teams together to tackle overwhelming odds and create legendary moments with the world's first race. So we're still kicking off every year with a new raid, starting with a new raid in codename Apollo. That will stack up against the rich and varied history of experiences in this space. Raids will continue to offer a complete pool of exclusive weapons, armor, and exotics, and these can be obtained at higher tiers by taking on additional challenge. Facing the tall task of following up Salvation's Edge, we are exploring some unique twists on the raid format. This is one area where we will not be giving very much information about in the future, as we don't want to risk spoiling the day one experience for the raid race. Now, raid feats. Our current iteration of master raids and challenges have followed a similar format for a few years, so it's time to change the formula. Starting with codename Apollo, new raids will support a raid-specific form of challenge customization, where players can select modifiers called Feats. Oh wow, so this is going to extend to raids. Feats will expose and enforce rules such as time trials, contest combatants, or other mode modifiers unique to the raid. So we'll be able to select contest mode, essentially. The more feats active during a run, the better the chance to earn higher tier rewards. Now, raid challenge update. In the first major update following codename Apollo, the raid will receive a challenge update adding new rewards, new mechanics, new feats, and potentially even new encounters. This update will kick off with the raid race event and be a venue for experienced raiders to further challenge their skills. In addition to the highest tiers of the raid rewards being available from these challenges, new and exclusive rewards will be added as well, including new weapons and a catalyst for the raid's exotic weapon. So you're gonna have a raid, and then in the first major update following codename Apollo, we will then get the challenge update to that raid, which will allow us to apply these feats, which will unlock more raid rewards from those challenges, as well as an exotic catalyst for the raid. What I will say on this, it cannot just be master mode. Like it just cannot be, hey, here's your raid, here's master mode, have fun. Like if whatever the feats are, like I see they got contest combatants, that's unique, right? There's gonna have to be something that makes that raid experience stand out from the base raid. At least we're getting a raid. Yeah, I would think that if Bungie didn't put a raid out, like if we weren't getting a raid with the expansion next year, then the expansion is dead in the water. So that means only a catalyst for the top 5%. That means only a catalyst for the top 5%. Yep. But don't worry, you know, we have community clans, right? We could assemble thy fire team. You know, I will say, look, man, look, depending on what the catalyst is for the exotic weapon, I mean, if it's something spicy, people are going to be angry. But now we're running into that wall, and that wall it's the get good wall, you know? It's a humbling wall. It just can't be master difficulty. Well, I mean, if you're going to have contest combatants, that's pretty tough. That's pretty tough. And now it depends, guys. I think what's going to end up happening with these feats is there's going to be like, what is the meta feat options? You know, like if it's like you have to select three feats to go into this raid to get the exotic catalyst, then what's going to happen is most people are probably going to be like, well, I can live with this time trials, or I can live with this other feat. Hell no to contest combatants. You know what I mean? Now, new dungeons. Dungeons are an important part of our in-game activity ecosystem. They provide an accessible raid-like experience that features unique encounters and mechanics that demand less social coordination and scheduling. So codename Behemoth, the second expansion of the year, will include a brand new dungeon. Also, because the dungeon will be launching as part of our codename Behemoth expansion, there will no longer be a separate dungeon key. Additionally, the reward offering for new dungeons will be expanded to include full weapon and armor sets on par with raids. Wow. All right. It's part of the expansion, as it should be. As it should be. More accessibility for everybody. Hell yeah. You know, people are always talking about like Destiny not being penetrable. I think the thing that holds up penetration more than anything is paywalls. Now, some barriers are good, as in trials. I don't want that to be penetrated by cheaters. Does it still get penetration? Absolutely. but at least make them pay. But there are many other places in the game where having more penetration and a lesser barrier, if an entire removal of that barrier, would be good. And I think that's a good step right there. Now, new raid event. Into the Line introduced a raid boss rush event called the Pantheon that puts fire team capabilities to the test. This event showed us that our community is hungry for new experiences that break out of the mode of our traditional raids and dungeons. So, in the 4th major update of the year, we're planning for another event that introduces novelty and allows our team to experiment with legacy raid and dungeon offerings to create surprisingly aspirational challenges. We're very early in the design stages of this event, so more details as we develop them. So hold on, if I'm getting this right, it says right here, legacy raid and dungeon offerings. We're getting Pantheon dungeons? Pantheon dungeon as well? Dude, Pantheon was fantastic. I had a great time in Pantheon. I mean, the whole Into the Light update was wonderful. You give me a Pantheon raid and a Pantheon dungeon? Hell yeah. And then now you got something for everybody. You know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, you're in a situation where you can't get a 6-man fire team. Well, that's fine. Probably get a 3-man fire team and do the Pantheon version of dungeons. And I guess in that case, we would have to get adept weapons for dungeons, right? Yeah, you're gonna have to give us something juicy, right? There's gonna have, I mean, adept weapons from the dungeons, maybe even the tier 5 or what tier 6 loot with all the enhanced whatever, you know. Or even beyond that, shining weapons, right? Now, raids and dungeons in the core game. Dungeon content will also figure prominently in the new portal as part of the Pinnacle Ops category. For more information on the portal, see the deep dive here. Several updated dungeons will be available to launch and play with full challenge customization, while raid content will not initially be part of the portal categories. We're exploring ways to incorporate it in a future release. Until then, new and legacy raid content will continue to be available in their current locations, along with their exclusive reward pools. All right, so if y'all remember about the portal is essentially going to be this menu. You know, maybe you're a new player, maybe you're just jumping back into Destiny, and you load up into Destiny. There's going to be this portal that's like, hey, are you looking for a specific weapon? Here it is. You can go get it in this given activity, and there are going to be people that are actively jumping in those activities. It's like a rotating activity pool, if you will, that rotates I want to say quite often. I think as a veteran player, we're probably going to, choose what we want to play versus what the portal is offering us. But the main thing is Pantheon is coming back. That's the big one. We're getting a raid next year. There's going to be a version of a raid that's not just a master mode version of the raid. It's going to go beyond that, giving us contest mode combatants. Pantheon is also coming to dungeons, and the dungeon will no longer need to be purchased separately. It will be included in that expansion. This on top of all the combatant updates that we're getting, which are most likely going to play a major role in the new raid and dungeon, as in those things will be present there. All right, overall, I don't really see, so like, here's what you're not getting. You're not getting 2 dungeons a year, 2 entirely new dungeons. You're also not getting 2 separate raids, which it was essentially a raid plus a reprise raid. I don't know why Bungie won't bring back Wrath of the Machine. Maybe there's been some debate on whether or not Siva is something that could be its standalone expansion and whether that would warrant a return of Wrath or some variation of Wrath. And personally, I wouldn't mind a Siva expansion. But on the topic of content that we're getting, raid, a challenging version of a raid beyond what we got from Master, Combatant 3.0 or whatever you want to call it, an update to Combatants in Destiny across the board, Dungeon, Pantheon, alongside whatever our seasonal content is going to be. My folks not liking the raid and dungeon changes. What do you not like about it? Is it because the raid exotic catalyst is going to be locked behind the challenge variant of the raid? Is that kind of what's losing y'all? Oh, it's the fact that we're getting 1 raid, 1 dungeon. Our content just got cut in half. You guys are saying like our content just got cut in half. Depending on what the challenging aspect of the raid is, yes, it's not as fun as like a new raid plus a reprise raid, and especially considering like the reprise raids have been phenomenal. Crota was phenomenal. The challenge version of the raid is going to have to be something different, something new. It can't just be just some modifiers, like dare I say mechanic changes. Secondly, I think the thing that's going to bridge the gap between the expansions, the big expansion, is going to be the Pantheon version of both raids and dungeons. I think that's going to be really cool. Pantheon was a big hit, guys. It was a big hit. The fact that they're extending this to dungeons, that's awesome. Look. Can I just say I'm after reading these articles, especially today's article. I'm kind of just relieved. And maybe, I know like some people may say, wow, Cross, the bar is really set low for you, huh? I'm just relieved we're getting a raid, a dungeon, variations of that raid, variations of those dungeons, a Combatant 3.0, a Pantheon, like we're getting Pantheon again. My concern was that Pantheon, despite its success, would not ever come back.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.